Hey, welcome back to Reddit Cheating Wife, the best channel for cheating stories. Like and subscribe to the channel for cheating stories like this.
My wife, 40F, had an affair and then encouraged me, 40 meters, to sleep with someone as a way of trying to make up. My marriage is doing much better, but I've developed feelings for my new partner, 32F, and have been thinking about leaving my wife. My wife and I have been married for 12 years, but we've been together for 14 years before that. We had a good marriage before she had an affair, and it could have been much better at times. I'm not going to say that our marriage was perfect because it certainly wasn't, but looking back, I can't think of anything I did that contributed to her adultery. There were times when I spent much too much time at work or with our children and far too little time with her, which I think is common in most married couples at some point, but I was by no means a bad husband. In October of 2018, she started an affair with a coworker who was a friend of hers. This was the first time she'd had a physical relationship with him after having an emotional one for a long time before. Their connection lasted till the end of May of this year. That's when she decided to take it off. She told me everything about her life in July of this year. Despite the fact that she claims to have been aware of her actions being inappropriate the whole time, she says she was able to justify them to herself by telling herself that she didn't care about our marriage any longer. It was April 2019 when I asked her to go to therapy with me after I saw she was withdrawing and we weren't connecting anymore, and she realized I still cared, that she felt bad and ended up breaking things off with me. Despite her acknowledgement that she had no intention of telling me about the affair at the time, she felt terrible about it and reached a point in July when she believed she was going to have a nervous breakdown if she didn't tell me. Everything went wrong as soon as I found out about the relationship. We had 2 children together, and I didn't want to abandon them. But I wanted to move away from her. We didn't talk much, unless it was about the kids, which was rare. There was no compassion on display. Despite the fact that I didn't want to divorce her, there seemed to be no way out of the infidelity. She apologized profusely and assured me that she would do all in her power to restore our marriage, including proposing that I sleep with someone else if it would be beneficial to do so. I ultimately came to the realization that I couldn't continue to remain in this condition of limbo for much longer. I had to decide whether or not to divorce her or whether or not to try to save our marriage. I decided to give our marriage another opportunity to see if anything could be salvaged, in part because she chose to come clean, which I saw as a sign that she was really remorseful, even if she had intended to keep the affair hidden from me at the time. We were able to begin treatment in October of this year, but I didn't feel it was helping and told her that I thought I was wasting my time. She agreed, and we continued. If sleeping with someone would make me feel better, she said, and she begged with me to continue going to therapy. This time around, I gave it more consideration than I had before, and the more I reflected on it, the more I became certain that I wouldn't be able to continue until I slept with someone else. On reflection, I don't feel that was a good attitude, but it was how I felt at the time. I apologize for any inconvenience. I made the decision to accept her offer of a pass somewhere around January of this year. When I told my wife, she said that the only condition was that I continue to participate in treatment sessions. In February, I met the person who would become my partner. She's really rather remarkable. I was just planning on having a fling with her, but it has turned into something much more. I think that we are compatible in ways that my wife and I were not at the time of our marriage. She is very aware of my circumstance and has been quite sympathetic of my situation. She has just recently admitted to me that she wants more. She is not only interested in being my partner, but she is also interested in other things. She wants us to be a relationship, and I understand why. A part of me agrees with what you're saying. I can't deny that I've entertained fantasies about what life might be like if I were to share it with her. My suspicion is that we will be tremendously happy together, in ways that I may not be able to be happy with my wife on our own. The notion of a fresh start is quite enticing to many people. However, I'm not sure whether I'm thinking clearly about this at this moment. I'm worried I'm about to fall into the trap of thinking that the grass is greener on the other side, which is not true. We've only known each other for a few months at this point. My wife has also worked really hard to keep our marriage together, and I am confident in saying that we are in a lot better place than we were before. The first time since discovering the affair, I think that our marriage can be salvaged, and I see a bright future for us both in the near future. I have no illusions about ever being entirely over the affair, but I hope we can rekindle our love for one another. That is the situation in which I find myself. Choosing their mother is better for my children than having them select their mother for me. In the event that I leave her for my partner and they learn how our connection started, they may even dislike me. My first priority is maintaining a strong bond with my children. On the other hand, I'm not sure what kind of relationship I'll be able to have with my wife as a result of this. I forgive her, but I'm not sure how I'll be able to put my faith in anybody else in the future. There is a lot of baggage here that I will have to carry about for the rest of my life, and I'm not sure I want to do that. First and foremost, there is no guarantee that the new relationship will work out, therefore it is possible that I will be wasting my marriage for nothing. I'm completely at a loss on what to do. Story 2. My wife thought I used my assault as an excuse to cheat. Abuser convicted guilty, my wife wants me back. This is a long story that takes place over a period of many months. I'll make every effort to collect as many specifics as I can without going on for too long. So, to summarize, roughly 8 months ago, I, 30M, was at a party where I was present. As a result of being intoxicated, a buddy took advantage of me. I don't remember much of it, but I awakened naked the next morning with a clear memory of what had happened the night before. I remember putting up a fight, but that's about all I remember. I also have a very vague remembrance of her holding a phone during the whole event, but that's about it, will be important later. I returned home and immediately told my wife of the situation. She was quite kind in allowing me to cry on her shoulder. I was a blubbering mess when I woke up. I didn't want to press charges at the time because I wasn't sure what would happen if I, as a male, accused a woman of raping me and was found guilty. I ended up alerting my friends since they were puzzled as to why I hadn't been showing up to social gatherings as often as I should have. It was basically the girls' argument that everything was done with their consent and that I was lying in order to keep my wife from being furious with myself. I have about half of my friends that believe her, and the other half who support me. It was a complete and utter disaster. Finally, I made the decision to separate myself from everyone. One of my supportive friends phoned me to tell me that she was pregnant but had chosen to terminate the pregnancy. This was an emotional roller coaster for me, but in the end, I came to the conclusion that it was for the best. My wife, on the other hand, had a different perspective. She maintained she was not aware that my abuser had pushed me to finish and that I would not have accumulated if I had not been really enjoying myself while doing so. I was told I was insane for faking a claim in order to cheat on her for days after our fight. She continued to tell me I was crazy. We have separated but have not yet divorced. I've moved in with my brother for the time being. Consequently, at this time, it dawned on me that I should visit the police station to clear my reputation. Once I had spoken with an attorney about the situation, he was certain that she had filmed the meeting after listening to my description of what had happened. Even though all I mentioned was that she was holding a phone, I see why she might think so. However, her phone and laptop were inspected, but nothing was discovered on either of them. Despite the fact that it took months, we were eventually able to recover the film from the cloud. I assume that nothing can ever be totally removed from the environment. The video clearly depicted me in a vulnerable position, desperately seeking to persuade her to release me from her grip. It was a medical emergency. Regardless, the evidence and witness accounts presented to the courts led to her being sentenced to 2.5 years in prison. When this happened, I think my wife was aware that I had been and has been pleading with me to let her back into my life ever since. She says she made a mistake and assumed the worst, and she apologizes profusely, but I'm not sure I'll ever be able to forget what happened to me. What do you think I should do? Proceed with the divorce or try to reconcile with her?